Coming to you from BLC Studios in Mankato, Minnesota, this is the Bethany Vikings podcast. Hosted by Brock Aker, Jake Anderson, and Gabe Stace. It's time to go inside Bethany Athletics.
Welcome to another edition of the Bethany Vikings podcast. This is season 3. We're kicking it off this year in February like we do always. And again, this is season 3, so we're adding a third person in the mix. Jake Anderson is going to join myself, Brock Aker, and Gabe Stace this year. We're going to have 2 hosts every week to keep you up to date with all things Bethany Athletics. Jake, and welcome to the show.
I feel like giving myself a round of applause here. Just kidding. No, very excited to be here with you, Brock, you and Gabe. Do a very good job with this year in and year out, so I figured, hey, might as well try to throw my hat in the ring. We do a lot of work anyways on the play-by-play and announcing for basketball and whatnot, so I'm like, hey, might as well join in with you on this. So we had a couple of games this past weekend for basketball. I figured we'd start with those.
Yeah, why not, Jake? And you're the new guy. You take it.
All right, so Northland, myself and Alex Stitt had the Northland game, and it was really just 2 complete games by both basketball teams. We'll start with the men's game. Our men's team beat Northland by a score of 106-71, and they just held it from start to finish. Both Schrupp and Nielsen, who we'll have on the podcast in a little bit, Schrupp had 18 and Nielsen had 14, and we saw a lot of production from basically everybody, top to bottom, guys just coming in and putting in good production, which I think is going to be the key down the stretch for this team, because we've seen them in games where they'll get up ahead really fast, and then it just seems like they took their foot off the gas or something, and they have a stretch where 7-8 minutes they let teams get back into it, have to fight for it to the end, but not this time. They just kept their foot on the gas and really kept the pedal to the metal, and were able to finish with that one out. Got the bench guys some good minutes too, which was good to see. Yeah,
they scored a season-high 106 points in the game you announced. You talk about they have moments of greatness, and they have moments of you just scratch your head, and we saw that definitely in the Superior game. They got outscored 13-2, and right from the get-go, Mason Ackley and Fahrenholtz just went right attacking the Vikings, and then we kind of got back in the game, and I think we had a 38-30 lead at halftime, and then starting the second half, we struggled again. We got up 47-33, and then all of a sudden they had a 19-2 run, and we're behind again. But then the Vikings came back, closed it out, and now they won by 13 points. So it was much more of a competitive game than the scoreboard looks in that second game. It did not feel like we won by 13 points. But one thing I took for note this weekend, especially in the men's basketball, was the atmosphere in the game I was at. University of Wisconsin Superior, they traveled well. It was Alumni Day. We had a lot of different alumni basketball players from the past. We honored the 10-year anniversary of our very first UMAC championship basketball team that Garvin was a part of. But it was electrifying. It was loud. There was a lot of whistles in the second half, and it seemed like the crowd was holding their breath on everything. Every call was booed by one crowd or the other. It's just great to have that back at Bethany, announcing the game with fans instead of just empty bleachers with maybe a couple parents.
Well, and you think about everything with COVID last year, too, where it was only, I think 2 tickets per player or something like that. Everybody had to be spread out and whatnot. Students weren't able to be in the building. Everybody had to kind of watch online. The atmosphere this year, I feel like, has been so different, where we've seen, bigger student sections for Bethany, and there's a bigger crowd feel. And I think it's in part because both these teams have played really well this year. And are looking good, kind of heading towards the tournament play. Something I'm looking at here in the stats, though, is Kyrie Mayfield only had 8 minutes in that Superior game. What was the reason for that? Was it just foul trouble, or?
No, he got hit in the face. Looked like maybe he got poked in the eye. We didn't really hear exactly, but he didn't return. Or he returned to the bench, though, with a towel over his head and goggles, red goggles.
Gotcha.
So hopefully it's not a concussion. If it was a concussion, you'd think he wouldn't be back, but it was kind of an odd scene of him at the end of the bench with a brown towel on top of it and some red goggles. But he made the goggles look good, man.
Something else I want to talk about you too, and we'll talk about this with Hunter in a little bit when he comes on. Hunter having 3 blocks, and it's interesting to note that he was coming into the season. He was 4th in terms of total career blocks. And he's already broken the record in just his 3rd season and is well over 100 blocks now, the first Bethany player to do that in program history. Something I wanted to ask you is what makes his blocking prowess just so I guess, good or feared by teams in terms of like how he's able to affect shots on that defensive end?
Well, yeah, I think he's one of the tallest players in the UMAC, which helps. He also has a presence. He talks some trash, you can tell. He's not a guy you kind of want to mince words with as an opposing player, and he'll let you know when he blocks it as well. So you don't want him to trash talk you with a block and get him going. So that's why some people kind of just try to avoid the situation. But it's really hard. I play intramural basketball a little bit, and people with my long arms, 6'3", they know I'm tall, but they don't understand until they play. You take Hunter Nielsen, 6'9", yeah, they probably watch film and they understand how tall he is, but even when you get to play him, he's even taller than you actually think, and sometimes you can think you can get the shot up, and then, oh, no, Hunter Nielsen will send you back.
All right, let's move over to the women's side of things, and we'll start first with that game again against Northland, and I think heading into that game, Alex and I had kind of talked about it at the top of the broadcast. Looking at the previous matchup between those two teams, it really felt like Bethany was just going to kind of be able to run away with it and just, pedal to the metal, get out to a quick 30, 40-point lead, and then just put in the reserves. The interesting thing was with that game, Northland just kept changing their defensive looks. They would go from a 1-3-1 to a 2-3 to a man to a half-court 1-3-1. They tried a little bit of full-court press. They tried man-to-man full-court press, and then they dropped back to a 2-3, and they just kept changing the looks. And it worked because it would, disorient that Vikings offense, and it made it tough at times to get it into Hannah. But then it just seemed like Northland got tired, and they weren't able to just keep going with that defensive pressure. Something I'll ask you, though, is what do you think happens when defenses do that and are able to just make it difficult on the offense to call it from play to play what they see? Because you only have those 30 seconds on offense before you have to get a shot off. What do you think that does to offenses where, the defense keeps changing their looks and it just can kind of disorients how the offense is working?
I think you obviously have to do that against Hannah Geisfeld. This is her 5th year. She's seen about everything. You talk about like even in NFL and Tom Brady plays, he's seen everything so he can react. And same thing with Hannah. So you can't run the same defense multiple times in a row against her because she's just going to pass, find the open person, and she's just going to take it right to you if you single guard her. But that's the most fascinating thing I look for when I get a call a game with Hannah Geisfeld is how are they going to react and guard her? Because are they going to double team her? Are they just going to try to press and make it tough on the guards to pass the ball to her? And that's what you kind of saw in the Wisconsin Superior. They actually single guarded her for the first 3 quarters, and that's how they kind of stayed in the game because they were hectic on the freshman guards we had, and it made it difficult to get the ball into her. But she still ended up with 37 points.
She had 38 in that first game against Northland with 17 rebounds and then 37 in that second game. Was really close to breaking the program record for most points in a game, which she literally just set not even a month ago at Minnesota Morris. Let's move to the second game. Bethany 78-71 over Wisconsin Superior. What were kind of the events of that game?
Well, speaking of Hannah Geisfeld, she recorded her 1,000th rebound. So she's the only person in the UMAC with 1,000 rebounds and 2,000 points. So just cementing herself again as the greatest UMAC player of all time. When you combine the first game, because she had 37 points, she has 75 points and 29 rebounds between the 2 games this weekend. I think she's going to get her 8th UMAC Player of the Week. And she got her 15th double-double of the season in that one. It was good to see Taryn Christensen. She returned to the lineup in the second game after missing a few games, and she had 5 assists. She got on the offensive glass. She played limited minutes. Lyle Jones said in the post-game press conference that she does still have a sore leg, so they're going to kind of ease her in these next couple games still. But it's great to have her back with, Kottke out. Her experience and her tenacity, the energy she brings is great to see. And it's Shanti Boykin. She continues to play well starting now. She's not much of a scorer. She's never shot more than 6 times in a game this year, but she's good at defense. She gets steals, and she had 5 assists in that Saturday game. She's good at finding the open player. Hayley Meyer, she scored double digits for her 4th straight game. And she just continues to be a threat, like Hannah Geisfeld called her in her post-game press conference. And it's just fun to see how they're going to have to start to react to her. Because if you single guard her and you double team Hannah, she's just been driving by the girl that she's been having to go against every game she's started now since her minutes picked up. Ashley Schindel, She had 4 3-pointers in that game. She has 10 threes in her last 3. Been really effective lately, and when she knocks down that 3-pointer, that's just going to open the lanes more for Meyer and the post touches for Hannah Geisfeld. But it was a close game. It was a close game throughout. The Superior had a 5-point lead in the fourth quarter, but the Vikings came back, and a couple technical fouls by University of Wisconsin Superior at the end kind of helped close the game out for the Vikings. I think it was good, though, that adversity, Jakin, the young guards we had. You talk about Hayley Meyer and Gherkin and Cloyd. They haven't really played a lot of crunch time minutes in close games because we haven't had a close game in a while. And when we did, we obviously had a little bit different of a cast of players out there. So it was good to see them face some adversity, come back, and get another win and stay undefeated in the UMAC.
How excited do you think Hannah's going to be seeing the play of Hayley Meyer just moving forward? I mean, true freshman. Hannah being that fifth-year senior who gets a lot of respect and, is highlighted a lot. Now you have this freshman, Hayley Meyer, who's just starting to really seem like she's figuring it out and figuring out her place. How excited do you think that makes a player like Hannah Geisfeld trying to go for her fourth straight UMAC conference tournament, seeing that production and knowing like, hey, if I have, an off couple of minutes or whatever, we have somebody now who can come in and take over a game and affect the game that way. Or even just be kind of her counterpart and be like, all right, if I'm not open, I know that she'll get open and, be able to score the basketball.
Yeah, I think she's just going to score even more points. You saw she's gotten in the 30s. She scored 75 total points over the weekend because now teams, they can't really single guard Hayley Meyer right now because she's just driving by them, which means they need help defense. Then they have to help off of Hannah, and Hannah gets easy layup. When you have more threats, it really helps Hannah Geisfeld get that single coverage because there's no player, I don't think, in the UMAC that can single guard Hannah. So when you have more threats that can take attention off of her, obviously it's going to be big time for Hannah, and she's just going to keep on adding to her point total.
All right, let's look forward now to this next coming weekend on Friday and Saturday, February 11th and 12th. Both the men's and women's team will be playing Crown College and the University of Minnesota Morris. Crown College, coming into that men's game, is currently tied with Bethany in the conference standings at 7-3 overall, fighting for that second seed. Everybody currently 3 games behind the University of Northwestern. That game really feels like it could go either way. The last time those two teams played, it was 80-75. Crown had the jersey retirement of Tim Wendell, a 2,000-point scorer in his career for Crown. That really has the feeling like it's going to be a big one to determine who's going to get that 2 seed.
Yeah, the Vikings obviously are going to have to play 40 minutes of good basketball. They can't afford to have a stretch of a 13-2 run or a 19-2 run if they want to get that second seed and have home court. You saw they were the second seed when they won their last UMAC tournament. I think Scholastica upset Northwestern. So you just control what you can control. The 2 seed, you have a possibility to host throughout, and you don't want to have to go to Crown. I know it's only about probably an hour, 20-minute drive. But if you were at the SFC on Saturday, you can tell that we actually have a home field advantage this year. So big time game that's going to affect who gets to host that second round of the UMAC tournament.
Meanwhile, for the women, they're playing the Crown and Morris. Morris coming in with a 5-5 record. That feels like it could almost be a trap game because we've seen Minnesota Morris give the women's team fits in the past. What do you think is going to be a key going into that one?
Yeah, our guards just got to keep on growing. Some bad turnovers, you kind of see it. It's still, you're getting some experience. So just to clean up a little bit on offense, play a little more together, play some defense and communicate a little bit better than they did against Superior. They did really good against Northland. But I think it's also good that we kind of had some troubles against Superior. Something Lyle Jones can actually talk to our players and say, all right, we have some things we can improve on, and let's do it.
Couple of big games coming up as we wind down the season. Looking even farther forward, you see Northwestern and North Central, 2 tough tests, road tests before that conference tournament. So a couple more tune-up games before it all matters coming into the conference tournament. But up next, we will have interviews with Hunter Nielsen and Justin Schrupp, and then a little later on in the podcast, we will have Laura Ellingheisen on to talk about women's basketball. All right, joining us now are two seniors on the men's basketball team. One, a sniper from deep, about as automatic as they come. Anytime he passes half court, any shot is within his range. And the other will rise up like an attacker in volleyball and send your shot out of the gym. He holds the single game, single season, and career records in blocks. Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Schrupp and Hunter Nielsen. Welcome, guys. Glad to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So this past weekend, you guys had two games against Northland College and the University of Wisconsin-Superior. Were able to come away with wins, and it was really two kind of different games in terms of not only the atmosphere, but just the level of competition you guys were at. We'll start with Northland. Winning by 35, able to get everybody involved and, have some guys get some minutes off the bench and whatnot. What was that game like overall, just from a standpoint of just feel and how it felt for the whole team in general?
Well, obviously we had lost to them earlier in the year, so that was kind of a game that everyone had circled for the week, and everyone wanted to have a really good week of practice and get good prep for them so we could come out on Friday night and execute and do what we needed to do. And obviously we did that, and everyone got involved, and it was a good game for everyone on Friday night.
Yeah, it was good to see everybody get, like Hunter said, involved that night and just get some experience for the guys that don't maybe play as much. But yeah, it was good to get them back for what they did to us earlier in the season, and we played well.
Really was a good bounce back game. It seemed like more, you guys kind of had everything in terms of like wits and wherewithal and stuff with you guys for that one. Let's move over to the Wisconsin Superior game. That one a little more closer. It was Alumni Day. Got to spend time with players from the past and whatnot. See that. We'll start with that first. What was it like seeing all these guys kind of come back who have been on the team before or been through the program before and just, have a day experiencing kind of and hearing like their stories and different things like that?
I always enjoy that day a lot. It's always super cool to see all the guys come back. It was a 10-year anniversary of Coach Garvin's team that won a conference title, so that was always a lot of those guys came back this year. So that was just super cool to watch them play their game and hang out with them a little bit after. And I was really glad we could get the victory for them. And that's just like what our program embodies. We want to be about brotherhood. We want everyone to come back, feel a part of this program, and that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, it was good to see everybody again, and there was even a couple guys that me and Hunter played with that they played in that game, so it was cool to see them and talk to them and catch up with them that we don't get to see them much. And yeah, it was good we were able to battle and get a win for them because I know they enjoyed watching us play, so yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about one of those guys actually, and Trenton Krieger. He's an assistant coach currently on Coach Garvin's staff. Especially for you, Hunter, you passed him in terms of career blocks. What was that like? What was his kind of reaction to you passing his record and different things like that?
Yeah, he was one of the first people to congratulate me. He was giving me hugs, high fives. He was hyping me up the whole time. He was cheering me on to pass it. He was biggest supporter along the way. And then he's been the biggest role model as a big I could ask, like the best role model I could ask for. He's been here since my freshman year. So to have him for 3 years now has been incredibly, just unbelievable to have that experience. I mean, he's one of the best UMAC bigs of all time. So to have him just always to lean on is super, super nice to have. And then I can pass it down to Riley as well, which is helpful.
Yeah, I mean, you broke that record in not even 3 years. Like you went from, even this year, going from, I think you were at 57 blocks to now well over 100. I'd have to go back and crunch the numbers to see exactly where you're at. But what's kind of gone into you being as proficient of a blocker as you are? I mean, it's partly due to your size standing at 6'8", but what else have you been kind of working on to really kind of hone in your skills at being able to reject shots at the rate that you do?
I just try to stay down and play with my length and make guys play over me or shoot over me, which a lot of times just leads to block shots, like you said, with my size, which if I just make guys shoot over me. And then I have pretty good timing as it is, and then a lot of times my guards will funnel a guy outside the paint and try to make him shoot a tough shot, which always helps me get a block shot. And if my guys are staying down, we always like to say the on-ball defender is not a shot blocker, it's always a secondary defender. So if they go straight up and they stay down, then that allows me to come over on the help side and send it to you guys in the crowd.
You talked about passing down that shot blocking skill to Riley. It's something that I noticed in the Northland game, and I don't know if it was specific to that game or not. I noticed that it seemed like Coach Garvin was switching you guys in and out every 4 minutes. Is that kind of what the game plan has been now, is to have you play for 4 and then Riley play for 4 and just kind of switch you guys back and forth just to keep legs fresh, or what's kind of the story with that?
I guess it's, definitely just to keep legs fresh. I'm not the best of getting in shape and keeping in shape, so everyone on the team knows that I work at it. So he's always a good backup to come in and give me a little break quick, but we're just trying to find our legs here and finish this stretch strong.
So we talked about former players a little bit, and head coach Pat Garvin played for Bethany during his playing career. What's it been like playing for a guy who's been through the program and has now come back after seeing success in other places and coming back to Bethany and trying to help keep this program going in the direction it's going?
Yeah, Garvin's amazing. We all love him as teammates, and we love playing for him. He's a great guy. He's a very personable coach. You always can go up to him and have a conversation with him just about anything you need to, and he's always been there for us since day one, so that's nice to hear.
To second off that, I'd say, like, if you put player coach equals, I'd put Pat Garvin's name right after it. He is like the ultimate player coach. He's always there for you if you need to lean on it. He's not like your friend. He knows how to push the right buttons, how to get you going in the right ways. He gets us to run through brick walls. Like, he's just the ultimate player coach to me, and I could not have asked for a better guy to come in.
He does seem very energetic and active on that sideline, to the point where during broadcast, Brock and I will be like, they're going to have to resurface that sideline over there after this game, just because he's going up and down and kind of wearing it out a little bit. Yeah. But in practices, does he ever jump in on like drills and stuff, get after you guys that way and be like, hey, if I can do it, you guys should be able to do it too? Or what's he like in practices? Is it just a whole nother level? Or
I mean, he's intense. He's an intense guy, and we like that about him because, it just makes us better. But no, he hasn't really jumped in any drills yet. We're still waiting for that day, but yeah. I don't know if that day will come.
He definitely talks his fair share of smack in practice and gets after us a little bit. But we like to have a lot of fun. We like to go hard and have fun while we're doing it. So it makes practice a lot more easier that way.
Just waiting for the day that he's working out in the post with Hunter and just starts sending his shots back to him and be like, how does it feel?
For that day too.
So this next question, I don't want it to necessarily start any beef, but it's something that I just kind of noticed a little bit. Hunter, we've seen you taking more threes this year, which honestly just kind of begs the question. Who would win in a 3-point shootout, you or Justin?
I'm not even gonna lie, Justin.
Well, hey, your career average right now is 30%. You were 1 for 1 last year, and you're 2 for 9 this year. So 30%, that'll play, especially as a big guy. But
that's a good shooting percentage.
I think I still need to keep working on it. Keep taking shots that are within the offense, good shots for us as a team. But I'm gonna keep letting Justin and our 3-point shooters are shooting well over 40%. Shoot the shots. Him and Ryan and Drew and B and Ree, let them get all the threes.
There was a moment during the Northland game. I remember Thomas had dribbled down the left side, gave it off to Drew, and he nailed the 3. And then he was coming back down the right side, and I turned to my broadcast partner Alex, and I was like, Alex, what do you think he dribble hands off to Cooper on the other side this time? And I think Easton came up to set a screen, and instead of using the screen, he went back to the right and dribble handoff to Cooper and nailed it. I'm like, I just pulled a Tony Romo. Yeah. I just pulled a Tony Romo. All right,
that's awesome.
We'll take it.
2.0.
But you guys mentioned it, Justin, being a career almost 40% 3-point shooter. You've hit some absolutely insane shots, especially this year, going back earlier in the season. The Central game tire to force it to overtime, first game of the season. I remember watching that. We had just finished watching the soccer conference championship, turned on that one, and was like, we're just getting all the sports, hype and stuff. And then another one being against, I think it was Gustavus. You catch it in the corner and falling out of bounds, knock down a 3. What kind of goes through your head in those tough situations where it's like you got to have it in order to keep the game going and stuff like that?
Well, I would say, to be completely honest, really nothing goes through my head as that play is happening. I just try and keep as cool as I can and just trust the work I've put in, and yeah, I guess nothing really goes through my head when those plays are happening.
Not just like, you're a little 6-year-old just running around in the front yard shooting shots, pretending like you're in that situation.
Yep, doing that countdown 3, 2, 1, trying to make a buzzer beater every time.
But of course, you can't just be like, oh, he missed his hit, but his pass back out again.
Yep, can't do that.
To Hunter, for you, I mean, you've watched that happen. What kind of goes through your head? You see him just pulling off this ridiculous shot, or pulling up from the UMAC logo on the floor or something like that. Like, is it just like, all right, I got to get in position, or I'm just gonna head down to the other end knowing that he's about to knock this down?
No, yeah, like I literally had to like train my mind to force myself to go offensive rebound. Like I can't just run back. Like he is gonna miss some shot. He's not perfect. Like 40%, there's still 60% that are gonna miss. I got to go get some of them. So like I had to like kind of train my mind to. Even though he shoots the ball, I still got an offensive rebound because there's always that chance. But I double off of what he just said. 1 through 15, everyone on our coaching staff, if he crosses half court and he gets the ball, green light. No one else on our team has more confidence in him to shoot the ball and make threes. And like you said, he's come up more than one occasion clutch for us this year.
8 straight games with double-digit points, 8 games with a 3, 8 straight games with multiple threes, and then 17 straight games with at least 1 3. It seems like though you've been able to kind of transform your offensive game a little bit more into, all right, I can dribble in and hit a 15-footer and add that to your game too. What about that do you think makes you more dangerous to an opponent?
I think they just opponents have to close out hard, regardless of where I am, I guess, on the floor. And I think that just helps me able to add another dimension to my game, so I'm able to help the team out in other ways rather than just three-point shooting. And even after, say, I get past that guy, then defense still has to help, and I can kick and find other guys to get them shots too. So.
Okay. Coming up here this next weekend, you have a couple games at home again. The last couple of home games this year before we get into tournament play against Crown College and Morris. Crown College on Friday. That's going to be a big one for you guys, currently tied with them for second in the conference, both of you chasing Northwestern. What do you feel like the keys are going to be to that game on Friday?
Well, definitely to start with their big three and Van Dam, Carroll, and Royce, and we definitely have to slow them down. Van Dam and Carroll right now are probably the 2 hottest players in the conference. They're probably the hottest team in the conference right now. They've won 5 of 6. Their only loss to us was by 5. They just went 2 North Central and Northwestern and came away with 2 road victories, and not close road victories. They won handily. So we're going to have a really good week of practice, have a good week of prep, and come in ready on Friday night to go to war.
Yeah, I agree with Hunter. I think the biggest thing for us is going to be defense. Defense is our ceiling. As good as we are on defense, that's how good we can be. And, yeah, I think that's just going to be a big key for us this weekend, lock in defensively and get stops and end it with a rebound.
Final question for the both of you. The last time we had a full season, Bethany made it to the national tournament. You both were freshmen on that team. We're a couple of weeks away from a conference with a chance to get back to that. Does it feel like that hunger is there, and maybe even more after not having that tournament, that chance to go and represent the conference in the national tournament like that? Does it feel like this whole team, you guys that have been there, are like, hey, we want to get back to this. Like, this is something that we want to get back to, and especially in Coach Garvin's first full year as head coach, is that the general feeling you're kind of getting like everybody's on the same page with that?
I'd say 100%. Like the best ring is the next ring. Everyone's chasing what we had our freshman year. We want to get everyone who on this team who hasn't had that feeling. We want to get them that feeling. We want to make sure we're cutting down nets. We want to do everything we set out to do at the beginning of the year. We just got to put our heads down, keep working hard, and see what happens.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we're all very hungry to get another ring, and I would even think those fifth-year seniors who came back are even hungrier and just want to win another ring one last time, and we also want to win a ring for them one last time too.
All right, I lied. Final question. Are we going to see both of you back next year?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, the
Sweet.
year after that as well.
The year after that, you guys are coming back for 2 more?
We're technically both juniors this year, so.
All right. We love
seniors and 5th years, so.
We love to hear that. Well, want to wish you all the best and good luck on the rest of your season. Thanks for coming on the Bethany Vikings podcast. It was great to listen to you both. And again, good luck on the rest of your season. Go get one.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate everything you guys do.
We are now joined by 3-time UMAC champion, senior guard from Winona, Minnesota, Laura Ellingheisen. She's joining the show. How are you today, Laura?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Glad this is the first time you've been on the podcast, right? Season 3?
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, it's your senior year. You've been playing on a lot of good teams. Obviously, we preface this as your 3-time UMAC champion. How does this team stack up against your other 3 teams?
Well, every year is different, obviously, and different players bring different things to the table. This year we have a lot of freshmen who have really stepped up, had a lot of good playing minutes. We've had a lot of injuries this year, so those minutes have gotten bigger in bigger games. But it's going really well so far, and I'm really happy to be a part of the team.
One of those freshmen that we want to bring up is Hayley Meyer. We've seen her not only getting more minutes the past couple of weeks, but then also really stepping in and just kind of flourishing under that offense. What type of growth have you seen from her, outside of just the games, like in practices and whatnot? Is it a confidence thing, or is it just, a freshman just kind of finding their footing? What's kind of been the key to her really kind of stepping up the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, she's progressed so much over the course of the year. I mean, coming in, most of the freshmen, they were good players, but once you really get into practices and really start playing against people in practice and pushing yourself really hard, you see that development start to grow. And Hayley has definitely picked it up in the last couple weeks. Again, with injuries, she's had to play more minutes, but she's definitely, I think she's definitely earned those minutes. She's played really hard in practice, as have all of our girls. I mean, everybody has been stepping up in practice, playing really hard. And when we have so much talent in all of our girls, not just the ones who always, play 20, 30 minutes, but even those who don't get to play, it makes everybody that much better. And we've had a lot of people getting in the gym, shooting, and getting shots up and stuff like that. And it's been really great to see.
And you, as a senior leadership, Emma Purvis, the assistant coach, talked about how instrumental Hannah has been as being a leader, but also yourself. I know when you were a freshman, you had Haley Sandine to lean on. So how much did you learn from her that you're teaching those freshmen?
Yeah, I mean, I guess coming in as a freshman, I was definitely very timid. And I think our freshman class kind of came in the same way. But, you just learn as you go. You kind of get thrown into it, and you go with it. You learn about yourself and about your teammates and how you click together and how you all have different strengths and how you, fit together. And so I think something that we've really tried to emphasize this year too is just going hard all the time and everybody having a job and doing it to the best of your ability. And I think me and Hannah have been leaders in that role, but there's also been a lot of other people on the team who have been, stepping in to those leadership roles that will continue to do so in the years to come as well.
So you talked about when you came in, you were a little more timid. Now you're one of the senior leaders. Talk about what that transition was like for you to go from one of the people who, you're trying to find your footing to now you kind of have to be that person that everybody looks to and are like, all right, yep, Laura knows where to go. Laura knows how to do this and different things like that.
Yeah, it was definitely a growth through the years. It's not necessarily my personality even to be like super hyped up and all the time and stuff like that. I'm more of a, quiet encourager and lead by example. But when you're put into a role like I am now as a captain and stuff, I've definitely had to be more vocal. And I guess it's just wanting to see this team succeed that has pushed me to be a better leader and ask myself, what can I do to make this team more successful? And that's just the role that I have this year.
I talk about a lot in our broadcast that you don't show up a lot in the box score, but you do all the little things, the fundamentals, and your grit. Where do you get that grit and your tenacity from?
I guess I just have always sort of played that way. I have a pretty athletic family, and my dad and cousins and aunt and uncles, and my cousins actually played at Bethany before I got here, and seeing the way that they played too, maybe not always the best scorers or something, but always just a drive and a determination to just play their hardest, has something that's just really been instilled in me, I guess. And I just, love to play basketball, and I just go out there and do the best I can.
So to start the season, your team played 13 of your first 14 games on the road this year, which I think I don't see that happening very often in sports, but it was a lot of games, and it was a lot of tough competition too. I mean, you played some of the top 25 teams in the country, even won a couple of those games against Eau Claire and Oshkosh. What was that like, especially, looking at you from a senior standpoint, but even for those freshmen who, this is their first college experience playing, and they're getting thrown into, all right, we're on the road again, 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 and different things like that. Not really having that first home experience until start of the second semester. What was that like?
Yeah, it's been interesting for sure, especially coming off of like a COVID year last year. We've talked about how those freshmen last year who are now sophomores only got like 10 games in. So the experience has been a little different. But I am so happy that we got to play the competition that we did before conference started and stuff. I mean, this is probably one of the toughest schedules that we've ever had. But I think we were up for that challenge. We had a really good schedule for last year when COVID happened that we didn't get to play. And so to have that this year, I think we've really progressed through the years and shown that we can play with teams that are maybe a little tougher than what we would usually see in conference. So to get that opportunity has been a real motivator, I think, and helped us to realize a little bit more of our potential as a team.
You've had you talk about your tough schedule, multiple wins against ranked teams, and you even had some votes for top 25. Do you think there's any chance you could be like the first UMAC team if you somehow flutter in the UMAC tournament, but still make the NCAA tournament?
I don't know. I mean, we had a good opportunity to possibly get in that rankings. Unfortunately, we had a couple losses that kind of dropped us back down a little bit. But I think if we really stick together, play hard, and if we come out with some big wins in the UMAC, the rest of the season and the tournament, and if we can really play hard in the NCAA Division III tournament, I mean, we can go far if we can play how we can play.
Let's talk about product on the floor for a little bit. This past weekend, playing games against Northland and Wisconsin Superior, 2 wins, but 2 kind of different games in terms of just the type of play and the pace of play and different things like that. Talk about what the feeling was after those 2 wins, first after Northland winning by 35 and then really having to grind one out against Superior.
Yeah, we prepared a little bit differently just because, they are such different teams. But we definitely didn't play as well as we would have liked to. I mean, we got the wins, and that's what's important, but we're definitely going to have to continue to work hard in practice. The game against Superior, we've had some, lapses in our games where we just can't quite get it together, but we really pulled together in that last fourth quarter, I think, to come together. And maybe that adversity, we were down a little bit, that adversity really brought us together and made us really drive and want to win. So I think that's something we need to keep up in our further games.
I mean, you look at that fourth quarter coming back from, I think it was a 3 or 4 point deficit, outscoring Superior in the final frame, 26-16, being able to really pull it out and finish off that game. Talking about Hannah Geisfeld, a player that you've played with your whole career, her having opportunities to win games at the free throw line and whatnot. I mean, she's shooting this year 80% from the free throw line, and that's just one stat that just kind of blows your mind. What about Hannah's work ethic and drive kind of just makes you kind of step back and go, wow, like this is a player that just, wants it all and wants everything?
She is so awesome. It's been so fun to play with her. But if you really know her, you know that she would do anything for this team. And it's not necessarily that she wants all those individual awards. I mean, getting them, doesn't hurt for sure. But she's so much more than just the awards that she gets. She brings so much to the team in leadership and just in drive and in passion. She has such a love for basketball that it definitely shows in the way that she prepares. She's, always in the gym getting shots up, working on her speed, agility, footwork stuff. And so it's just been it's been awesome to be around that kind of player because she makes everybody around her better too.
I think it shows too, and anytime there's a charge or anything like that, I can't even count how many times, even for you take a charge or you hit a layup and one, whatever, she's the first one over, like, let's go, and just
sure.
Screaming, giving you a hug and stuff like that. But I think that just shows, you talked about it, the amount of passion and the amount of, she loves this team and wants this team to really progress and go forward. Coming up this week, you have games against Crown College and Minnesota Morris. Crown College coming in 1-9 towards the bottom of the conference, but still, Coach Purvis has told me that, they've shown a little bit more improvement this year, maybe better than what their record shows. But Minnesota Morris was interesting to me and Brock. We talked about it a little bit, how that can kind of be a trap game. It feels like if there's any one team that kind of trips Bethany up, it is Minnesota Morris. And is there any reason to you why that is?
I don't know. They've been an interesting team this year for sure. They've had some really close games against good opponents. I think they lost to Northwestern in overtime at their home. They lost to North Central by like 3 both times they played. So they're always a team that plays really hard. And if you don't show up and play really hard the first, half, the first 5 minutes of the third quarter, they're going to stick it to you and they're going to fight to the end. So that's something that if you don't come out ready to go, they might get you. So we got to be prepared for that for sure.
You guys have been really good in second, third, and fourth quarter, outscoring teams about 50 points. But that first quarter, you're only outscoring the opponents by 1 point. What's been difficult about that first quarter this year?
Yeah, we've just not come out great. Maybe our mindset in the first is just not quite there. That's something we're definitely working on, but at least our second half is there, I guess. We've talked about it a lot, and we'll see how we can bring it all together. Hopefully that comes together in the last 4 games of the season and into the tournament.
And I'll add this too. It seems like at home you guys are fine. Like you can get out to some sort of lead, and like you don't have as many issues getting out and going. It's just, it seems like maybe it's like an on the road thing. Like, all right, getting used to this environment maybe, or long travel day or something like that. Maybe just kind of affecting the legs a little bit or something.
Yeah, and it might also go back to the kind of experience and all playing together and playing in college basketball, because the only way to really prepare for those kind of games is to be in those games and in those situations.
And you talked about experience. It's a lot of varying experience, but the last time that we had a conference tournament and a national tournament, Bethany was the representative for the UMAC. I asked this to Justin and Hunter earlier in the podcast, but for you, it's an honor, being able to represent the conference at that national level and whatnot. And for you, you guys were 1 quarter away from making it to the Sweet 16 last time we had a national tournament. Do you feel like the hunger is there, even from these younger players, to get back to that moment and maybe even progress into that Sweet 16 and further into that national tournament?
Yeah, that's definitely one of our goals this year, because we know we have so much talent and so much potential. And Coach has been talking a lot about, how grateful we should be for getting to the tournament twice and winning the conference, 3 times, because not a lot of teams, not a lot of girls get to do that. And so I think we definitely have high standards and high expectations for ourselves, and we work hard every day in practice to get there. And I think it's coming to fruition. It's getting there, and we'll see how it goes.
I'll ask the last question. You've been on part of a lot of UMAC tournament teams. What is the biggest key here now we're getting into crunch time here in the season?
I think we really have to come together as a team. When you get down to this, like last month or so, it's always can get a little chippy. We've been together for how many months, but now's the time where we just have to all come together, know what we want to do as a team, and work hard to get there.
All right, well, that's 3-time UMAC champion Laura Ellingheisen, hopefully a 4-time UMAC champion by the end of this season. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, we appreciate Laura Ellingheisen and Justin Schrupp and Hunter Nielsen to join the show. It's great to get their insight of their teams, get to know them a little bit better as we're getting to crunch time here in the UMAC basketball seasons. All right, let's put a bow on this show. Jake, and before we go, you have some track and field notes you want to talk about this weekend.
Yeah, so track competed at a meet in Wisconsin River Falls. An interesting track. A lot of tracks, for indoor at least, they're kind of small and kind of in confined spaces and whatnot, but River Falls facilities were nice. Like, it was insane to kind of go up there and just be able to have a meet up there, but then also the competition was really good, facing schools from the WIAC. Wisconsin Superior was there, so that's a team we'll see at the UMAC conference track meet once we get to that point. A couple of performances that I want to highlight. Number one, Jake Marzinski. He just came back from being in COVID protocols and was back to his old ways in winning the meet in not only long jump but in triple jump. Set the school record, his own school record in triple jump, first meet back. Which was pretty impressive to watch. I don't think he even went to finals in jumps. The way that long and triple jumps work is you have 3 jumps in like the preliminary stages of the meet, and then they'll call the top 8 people with the top 8 marks and say, all right, you made it to finals. I don't think he took any of his finals jumps because he didn't really necessarily need to. Stephanie Whitbroad on the women's side was able to break her own shot put record and continue her fantastic freshman season and keep kind of building momentum as we head towards the conference track meet. And then also Nathan Wildauer ran a 2:03.89 800 for the men and looked really good in an 800 where he was kind of shaky with a little bit of a hamstring issue, but looked really good for his race. And overall, another good meet. We saw a lot of personal records and a lot of people who put together really good races, really solid efforts once again. And, it was just fun to be out there competing. We got 2 more weeks of meets on weekends. We're sending a couple of athletes to the University of St. Thomas on Friday to compete at a meet there and get some good competition in at St. Thomas, and then we'll have a meet against Carleton where we'll see the whole team travel to that one. And then we have one more kind of tune-up meet at SDSU before we go up to Superior on February 25th and 26th to go up and compete up there. So that's kind of the update from track and field. What about tennis?
Yeah, tennis, they were pretty successful here this Sunday. They lost to Hamlin 6-3, but they had 3 single wins, which marked the first individual victories versus Hamlin in their series history. So good improvement so far we've seen at the beginning of the year for the Vikings. Those individual wins were by Carlos French, Hector Damaso, and Nick Casa. So those were the 3 wins for the Vikings. They're going to play Gustavus next week. No women until 26, but a couple early spring matches for the men.
Very fun to watch. A lot going on at Bethany as spring sports starting to tick up too. We even have softball and baseball practicing. I think softball has their first games over at the Bubble at MSU on February 19th, I think is when they start those. We'll have to double check and fact check that, but I know those are coming up pretty fast, and then they'll be off to spring training in a little bit. But as we wrap up this episode here, any final thoughts about this past weekend and kind of where basketball is going, and as we get closer to the postseason, Brock?
Going back to basketball, yeah, I think it's going to be a fun ride. We have 2 really good teams again. The women hopefully can stay perfect this upcoming weekend, and the Vikings men keep looking to try to get those 40 minutes, be a little more consistent, so we can compete with Northwestern hopefully in the UMAC tournament because we have the talent to do so.
I was looking back through the Bethany schedule and like the history and stuff like that and the records. I don't think we've ever had a Bethany women's team go undefeated in conference. So obviously 4 games yet to play, and there are some pretty tough opponents, especially you look at that last weekend before the conference tournament against Northwestern and North Central, at Northwestern and North Central, going into enemy territory. Going to be 2 tough places to pull out victories, but overall, like you said, I think it's going to be a very fun ride the rest of the year.
We do not have guests assigned yet next week, but we'll have a couple for you. Come back each and every week until the end of the semester. We might not do Easter, but be ready every Tuesday. You got the Bethany Vikings podcast, Season 3. Thanks for watching.